Okay, just one thing at the top here. So later today, President Biden will virtually join the House Bipartisan Disabilities Caucus celebration, marking the 32nd anniversary of the landmark Americans with Disabilities Act, which afforded inclusion and access for disabled Americans. President Biden was proud to co-sponsor this historic legislation as a senator, and his administration has taken a number of steps to advance equity for Americans with disabilities. That includes expanding employment opportunities, ensuring access to education and health, and increasing access to affordable housing, transportation, and broadband. For example, thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, today the Federal Transit Administration announced new investments to make it easier for people to get on board at the nation's oldest rail public transportation systems. Earlier today, the Vice President also hosted a roundtable with disability rights leaders to discuss access to reproductive health care, where she emphasized the administration's commitment to protecting reproductive rights and self-determination of all individuals with disabilities. Our nation has made great progress since 1990, and the Biden-Harris administration will continue working to ensure that the vision of the ADA is fully implemented for all Americans with disabilities. With that, Sung-Min, go ahead.
I just have one. Can you discuss any measures that the president's doctors may be taking to try to lower the risk of long COVID when the president, and the reason I asked it is obviously I know he's up to it, or he's feeling up to it now, but there's anecdotal data to suggest that, taking it easy, not exercising might be one way to perhaps lower the risks.
Well, one thing I would say is that, and you heard Dr. Jha say this as well, because the president's symptoms have been very mild, and as we saw from Dr. O'Connor's letter, he asked last night to exercise. We are pretty confident that we will continue to see the president to continue to recover from this. Look, the thing to remember, and you've heard us say this over and over again, Dr. O'Connor said this in his letter, you've heard Dr. Jha say this as well, is because the president is fully vaccinated, double boosted, and has the treatment of Paxlovid, which is, we see this as a teachable moment, you've heard us say, for the American public. Who else can they, for those who have not been vaccinated or have not gotten their booster yet, learn from than the President of the United States of how important it is to get those free vaccines, to get those free booster, and to be able to get Paxlovid, and to protect and to get that extra protection. And so, again, there's a reason why he's having very mild symptoms. It's because of the work that he has been able to do, and we are pretty confident that he will continue, to get better.
On monkeypox, is the administration encouraging all Americans to get vaccinated? I guess, what's the guidance?
So our guidance is, first, we've had a comprehensive and aggressive response to this. That's what we deployed. We rolled out that strategy last month in June. And so once we realized that it was what was happening, the cases that we were seeing, there were more than 300,000 vaccines across the country in a matter of weeks, and we quickly ordered the production of 5 million more vaccine when we saw that the virus was starting to spread. What we are telling people is to make sure that, HHS has also made available testing, which is really important in this process. But we are also telling folks that if you have concerns, or if you want to know what your personal protocol should be, that you should go to your provider, your medical provider, have that conversation with your medical provider, or also reach out to the local health agency in your state or city.
It's not just saying everybody should get vaccinated. It's go to your doctor and talk about.
I mean, the best person or place to go to is your medical provider, and have that conversation to see if it is if it is beneficial to you to get vaccinated.
And then, is the White House going to appoint a monkeypox coordinator similar to Dr. Jha's position?
No, understand the question. I don't have any personal announcement to make at this time. Okay.
Just a quick follow-up on the president's COVID status. So since today is day 5 of isolation, and I know that the White House would like him to first test negative, will he presumably take a test tomorrow and then you'll assess from there? Do you have a plan yet?
So that's up to the president's physician. We're going to continue to be transparent and share the president's physician's detailed note of his examination of him and how the president's going to do. We'll have that for all of you tomorrow. We will, when he gets tested, we will be transparent about that and share that with you.
And then just two separate questions. It's been 2.5 weeks since the president signed an executive order on protecting reproductive rights. Just wanted to know, and not asking you to preview anything that's not been announced, can you say whether people should expect more executive actions from the president and any kind of timeline you can offer?
I'm not going to get ahead of the policy process. The president has said he's going to do everything that he can to protect the access to reproductive health for women across the country. And we're talking about privacy. We're talking about contraception. We see what's happening on the other side with extreme policies to have national bans on abortion, which is unacceptable to us, as we've made really clear. You've seen the vice president has been out there these past couple of days. She went to Indiana to talk to state legislators as their state legislative process was moving forward and made that clear on where the Biden-Harris administration stood. I don't have anything at this time to share with you, but also, as you know, the president has been very clear on continuing to ask Congress to act, to take action, to codify Roe via legislation, and also to make sure that the American public has their voices are heard.
I wanted to know whether the president has spoken with any Republican senators on the bill to codify same-sex marriage.
I don't have any calls to read out to you. The president is in regular touch on a different array of issues with members of Congress. So are his offices here, whether it's an Office of Legislative Affairs or any other office in the White House that has regular conversation with members of Congress and their staff on just an array of issues. I don't have anything specific to share.
Without reading out calls, can you say whether those calls have happened, period, whether those conversations with Senate Republicans on this topic?
No, I appreciate the question. I just don't have anything to share with you, any specifics to share. Go ahead, Steve.
What sort of exercise is he doing? Is he treadmill?
I knew that was going to come. I knew, and I should have asked. I mean, look, I think it says a lot, and I spoke to Dr. O'Connor earlier today, that the president is feeling well, and we should be thrilled and wanting him to have that negative test. I'm sure you guys are waiting for that as well, so you can see him in person, that he's doing well enough to say that he wants to work out. I think it's been reported in the past that he likes to do weights and he likes to do the treadmills. I don't think I'm sharing anything confidential here, but I think it brought a smile to my face when I saw that he wants to work out. And
secondly, what are the implications of Russia's apparent decision to withdraw from the support from the International Space Station?
Yeah, so we saw that report as well. And so, look, we're keeping an eye on that for sure. And so the government has not formally notified the United States of their intentions to withdraw from the ISS. Like I said, we saw their comments, we saw the reporting on that. We are exploring options to mitigate the potential impacts on the ISS beyond 2024 if Russia does withdraw. For our part, we remain committed to working with ISS partners to ensure the safe operation of the ISS and the astronauts who are on board. I'd refer you to NASA for any additional details, specifics on that. Yeah, Karen.
Just a couple on the president's COVID. When he was talking at the event today with the South Korean officials, he had said, I'm in the last day of having been diagnosed with COVID. Was he referring to the fact that he's going to get that test to potentially come back to work?
I actually didn't even hear that statement. My assumption is, he's been isolating. This is, I believe, the 5th day of isolation. Maybe that's what he was speaking to. I didn't hear him say that. I would have to ask him directly myself. I know when I had COVID, I was ready. When I was ready to go, you feel like you're just like like, oh my gosh, how can I bust out of here and really get out there and see the people? So I'm sure that he's excited he's excited. I know I said this yesterday, but it's true. He's excited to see all of us and be in person and be out there with the American public again. And so I'm sure that's what he's looking forward to.
And just to get a follow-up from yesterday when I asked you about the potential of how you guys would be testing for the rebound cases, is there any clarity on when he does get that negative test of what the cadence would look like going forward on the monitoring of the Paxlovid rebound?
No, that's a great question. I would have to get back to you on that. We haven't had a chance to get kind of that protocol and what that looks like. Again, we're going to continue to be transparent here. We're going to continue to share the doctor's notes with you and his detailed information on how the president is doing. And so, we're just going to make sure that you all have the information that you all need on that. Gotcha.
Thanks. Let me try one more time on the
What, the
Taiwan-
exercise, the
Taiwan-
weights?
No, actually,
I don't know.
if you want to give us details on that, that's fine. So I know you guys want to say that the Pelosi visit is a hypothetical, but the speaker hasn't denied that she had plans to go. So I think we're sort of past the fact that it is a hypothetical, and it's now also a real issue because lawmakers are speaking out, supporting her from both parties, saying, Pelosi not going to Taiwan would hand a victory to China from McConnell, and Menendez said if we can allow the Chinese to dictate who can visit Taiwan and who cannot, then we already ceded Taiwan to the Chinese. So at the very least, is there something the White House can say in response to those lawmakers having very strong thoughts about what it would mean for the Speaker of the House to pull down her trip?
I'm going to let the lawmakers speak for themselves. As I speak for the President and the White House, we are just not going to get ahead or an announcement that actually has not happened yet on her travel. What we will say is, as we normally do with any members of Congress who travel abroad, who travel internationally, we provide, we provide information, whether it's national security or geopolitical information on what's happening around the world. It doesn't matter if it's Taiwan, it doesn't matter where they go. And so that is what we're going to continue to do. I'm just not going to get ahead of the Speaker. I'm sure none of us want to get ahead of the Speaker in general, but let her speak to her own travels on her own.
You can't say whether the president personally would support this trip, even in a hypothetical. I mean, he said very strong things about supporting Taiwan, even militarily, and of course that was not walked back. But whether the president, personally would be in favor of such a trip or against it.
I have not spoken to him personally. You've heard him. I think maybe someone on your team asked him a week ago, last Wednesday, about this particularly, specifically about the Speaker's travel. I'm not going to go beyond what he said.
He only talked about the military saying it's a bad idea, not what he.
Well, I'm just saying that I'm just not going to go beyond what he said. And again, the trip has not been announced, or if there is a trip, not a trip, I'm just not going to get ahead of her own announcement.
Okay, can I get one more on the
Maybe, Jen.
student loan forgiveness? Totally different topic. The president obviously has been weighing his decision for a long time, and I'm curious. Is there anything more you can say on why it's taken so long, and whether rising prices has played a role in the fact that you guys are still internally deliberating?
No, I mean, look, the president understands firsthand how burdensome this could be for many Americans just across the country. That's why when it comes to loan debt, that's why he took the action that he did when it came to pausing repayment. And so he made sure that was something that he took action on when he first got into the administration, and then took action on it again, as you all know. But as far as the loan cancellation, look, he understands again what this means for families, how burdensome this could be. I just don't have anything more to share, and he said himself by the end of August, so that's right around the corner. That's pretty soon. I have no idea what day it is today because we're always so busy here. But he'll make a decision. He spoke to that last week, so I'll let him speak when he's ready. Good, right.
Thanks. Is the test tomorrow that the president will take, will that be an antigen test? Will it be a PCR test? Is the decision whether to resume normal activities dependent on a PCR testing?
So let me, and Dr. Jha actually spoke to this, and many of you who have probably had COVID taking a PCR is not something that you can do for about maybe, I think, 60, 90 days because it's probably going to be positive. So it probably wouldn't be a PCR test, is my guess from my experience, and I'm sure many of your experiences as well. What was the other part of your question, Franco?
That was
it?
whether
Okay.
you thought it
Okay.
would be an antigen
Yeah,
or
and
PCR.
Dr. Jha also spoke to this when he was asked about this last week.
And another question, I mean, what plans does the administration or does Biden have in place for the anniversary of the withdrawal from Afghanistan? Is he going to give a speech?
So we'll have more to share on that, on what our plans are going to be. I don't have a speech right now to detail or anything specific about the president's schedule to share on the anniversary, but we will have more to share as we get closer, just more broadly speaking. Again, Michael.
Thanks, Corinne. Pacific Northwest is facing in the next couple of days record heat. It's the part of the country least prepared for this sort of weather. What's the administration doing to?
Yeah, I spoke to this. I spoke to this yesterday, and how our agencies here have been pretty much activated. We've been talking. Our offices here have been talking to the governors and the local state officials who have reached out and have asked for assistance. And so I don't have anything more specifically to share, but this is something that we're monitoring, especially as we see the fires in California. FEMA is involved. We have other agencies that are involved as well. We're helping with, as we talk about the fires, firefighters, and however else we can be helpful, whether it's funding or anything, any assistance. But it is something that the president is being updated on regularly, and this is something that we are clearly closely taking a look at and monitoring.
To quickly follow up on the Respect for Marriage Act, it seems as if the Democratic leadership in the Senate has two possible strategies. One is they secure 10 Republican votes and before bringing it to a vote, and the second is that they put it on the floor and they challenge Republicans to take stance. Does the White House have a position on which strategy they would prefer to see?
So I'm not going to speak to the strategy of what's happening in Congress or the mechanism that they're using. I could say this, and I spoke to the president about this legislation, the Marriage Act, the Respect for Marriage Act, last week. As you know, this is something that the president has supported for many, many years. He was out front on marriage equality ahead of so many other congressional members and senators when he was himself a senator and also as vice president, as you all know. We put out a SAP last week when the legislation was moving forward, and so this is something that the president's going to continue to keep an eye on. We're going to continue to work with Congress, do everything that we can to make sure that it gets over the finish line. Okay. All right, guys. I'll take one more question. Go ahead, Chris, because I haven't called on you in a while.
Thank you. So yesterday, this speech, the president said you can't be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy, and he also said you can't be pro-insurrection and pro-America. There's Democrats across the country that are spending money supporting these candidates, basically. What does the president think of that?
Can you say that there are
There's
Democrats
across the country who are supporting some of these candidates in primaries.
like Democrats, like Americans, like everyday Americans, or elected officials?
Elected officials and candidates.
So I can't. I mean, I'm not going to speak to that. Especially as we're looking at an election or anything that's related to potential midterms. It's not something that I can speak that from here. But I do want to make very clear what the president did yesterday, and he has said this before when he has talked about what the former president, his predecessor, how much he bears responsibility for what happened on January 6th in 2020. There was. his predecessor, Donald Trump, had an opportunity to be on the side of democracy, but instead, he was on the side of the mob. And let's not forget what happened to the law enforcement on that day, the heroism that we saw. They're supposed to be protecting our streets, and here we have law enforcement that was protecting our democracy. And while they were doing that, they were being assaulted, they were being attacked, and by a mob that the former president clearly supported. And so what the president wanted to do yesterday, he took the opportunity while he was in front of law enforcement, clearly via video. He was supposed to be in person yesterday in Orlando, and he took that opportunity to thank them for their heroism and also to compare their bravery to the lack of courage that we saw from the former president. I'll see you guys tomorrow.